You'll make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Get It Right Texoma with the Texoma Trio. Right here with you, Mike Hendren, Terry McAdams, Trace Sralla. Pleasure to have you back once again with us as we continue talking about things of local and regional and national importance.
And that's what we do here on this podcast, the purpose of this podcast.
We are a versatile group.
That's right. Now, we will get off on tangents.
Of course.
No doubt.
Of course, yeah. We will chase a squirrel now and then.
Squirrel?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
And I don't necessarily catch it, but we'll chase it.
And, but local, we'll have guests, we'll have just various topics, local, and sometimes we'll get into the national aspect of it and try to tie it into a local.
Oh, yeah.
As much as we can.
Thing, yeah.
But part of that is going to rely on you. So we need more information. We need as much information to get things out. If you have an organization, like, for instance, Campfire, we talked about it. I'm not going to go into great detail. But Campfire is selling candy. That's their annual candy drive sale at Campfire of North Texas. And so if you want to support that, then please buy Campfire candy. So if you have an organization similar to that and you have a fundraiser going on, you have something going on, the toy drive that the three of us participate in every year.
That's right. Please
send that information. Now, look, if you have a knitting club or something like that, we're probably not going to talk about it because it's not good. No, I'm just kidding. I damn sure don't want the knitting grannies to get after me.
Yeah.
But no, but seriously, if you have something that you want us to promote locally, we'll definitely be able to help you do that.
If there is a knitting club, how many members can they have? Like 7?
Yeah, I don't know. Be careful. I'm telling you, my mom's a knitter, and the knitting, the quilt and knitting people, they are very passionate about what they do.
Yes.
I'd be careful.
Very well organized.
And the quilting side of it with the some of the machines and everything. Oh my gosh, they get thousands. I'm taking tens of that, $10,000. I've seen machines.
It's amazing. It's really amazing what they can do.
Well, they're part of the Teamsters Union or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, tangents. We can do that.
Anyway. The Hershey Huskies block party coming up May 25th, 11 to 7, Castaway Cove. This is a big deal from Trey and I, because we're both Hershey High School graduates. This is the last year for Hershey High School as a high school. It'll become a junior high school.
As well as Wichita Falls High School and Ryder. All three schools will be decommissioned as high schools, and then they'll have 2 new high schools.
Yeah, the other night I was driving down Kell Freeway there at 369. That's where one of the new high schools is.
Memorial.
And got all the lights were on outside.
Pretty impressive.
And it's like, wow, that thing does look massive.
Yeah,
once you've got the power on, all of a sudden it's like it just, and the whole perspective, it's changing quickly. These schools are slated to open in late August this year.
Yeah, they're going to be ready for the 2024-25 school year.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. The educational system in Wichita Falls is really gone through a renaissance the last decade. It started with there were 2 new elementary schools built in the 90s.
Yes.
Major refurbishment in the elementary schools.
Yes.
There was a bond pass and there was some major upgrades at some junior highs in the early 2000s.
Yes.
I said the 90s. I take that back. I'm sorry. The elementary schools were built in the early 2000s. Then in probably 11 or 12, there's pretty major upgrades in the junior highs. And, of course, we passed the bond to build the Career Education Center, which was a game changer for the WFISD. And now, then there was another bond pass, and the citizens of Wichita Falls supported all this, and to build 2 new high schools. So the Wichita Falls ISD education system has undergone a renaissance, and it will be kind of not complete, but it'll be a massive upgrade when you have these 2 new high schools. These are, when you get a chance to tour these things, go tour them, please, when they're open to the public, and go tour the Career Education Center. See what's going on there. See what your tax dollars are spending money on. These are not the old days. The old days of it's a box with a bunch of boxes in it. That's what schools were.
Right.
There were a box with a bunch of boxes in them. These are dynamic learning spaces that people can move here and there, and they can have teach classes in such different ways and different manners, A lot of digital nowadays. The kids are sitting in class, but they're using digital devices and things like that. The whole education system as a whole has changed a lot. And so I encourage everybody to get involved and find out what's going on.
The Memorial Stadium is getting new scoreboards. And I've been kind of following a little bit of the controversy on this, which it's a non-controversy. Corporate sponsorships are going to fund 100% of the replacement of these scoreboards. And they're quite expensive, but the scoreboards that are there have been around for a while. And, when you've got something electronic like that that's exposed to the elements all day, every day, hot, cold, wet, dry, and everything in between.
Sun.
It's going to cause damage.
Yes.
You're going to have wear and tear to a greater and more rapid degree than you would if it was being protected. If you had a big, cloth you could throw over it.
The one in the gyms is going to last a lot longer.
Exactly, because they're in a controlled environment.
Right.
Those are in a controlled environment. These are not. But corporate sponsorships are going to pay for 100% of this, and people are throwing fits about it. I'm going to spend more money. No, they're not spending any of your tax money on this. Now, one thing I wish they would do, but I understand why they don't. First of all, Wichita Falls ISD, at some point, you're going to have to make that stadium ADA compliant. Whether you want to do it or not, you're going to have to do it. You need to get an elevator in there.
Yeah, that press box is not.
That press box, that press box is terrible. And, one of us fat guys is going to drop dead with a heart attack trying to get up to that thing because you got to climb 87 flights of stairs.
Well, now, to be fair, the stadium itself is fairly ADA compliant in a lot of ways, but the press box is not.
Yeah.
But there's ramps. There are ramps and there's flat level places for people that are in wheelchairs and things like that to get to that are off ramps. So that there is some compliance there on the stadium, but the press box is definitely not.
And that's going to be an expensive fix.
Yeah, it is because it's like anything else. If you start to touch one thing, you have to change everything.
That's correct.
And unfortunately, that's part of the issue. That is part of the problem with ADA. Look, I'm on board with people that have disabilities having access to things. Don't get me wrong. But ADA has also gone so far to where if you touch one thing, you have to change. In some ways, you have to change everything, and it becomes too cumbersome for businesses or government entities to do something.
Well, here's something I learned with regard to code and how it triggers ADA and blah blah blah. All that stuff is that even though whatever construction, whatever doesn't necessarily trigger something, that doesn't mean that you're all in the clear. If somebody walks in your business, finds out and sees that you have some sort of thing, even though the city hasn't required you to do it during your move-in or whatever, in theory, they file that with the federal government. The state is not involved.
Right.
And now the federal government then files suit against you. But you're like, but wait a minute. Apparently that doesn't matter. You are, and I've looked into this. I've talked to some attorneys about it, and it is not. I think that gets a little bit crazy sometimes. But that being said, when I went to Russia, and you've been to England, tell me how ADA
I've been to 8
friendly
countries over there.
Yeah, how ADA friendly are they?
0.
Yeah,
oh,
I mean
yeah.
they.
Yeah,
so even
are you kidding me?
We passed that law in the 90s, 1990 maybe.
Yeah,
with
I've been
Bush.
to 8 countries in Europe, and for instance, I've been to go the underground, like especially in France.
Yeah.
Holy crap! They have steep stairs all through the underground stuff. I didn't see a ramp anywhere, so if you're in a wheelchair, there's no way you can use the underground.
You're not using that,
And a lot of those buildings are old buildings that were built many, many years ago before, when there were no wheelchairs. I mean, if you couldn't walk, you just stayed at home.
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice or whatever. And or you were an exalted king and they carried you everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's you're absolutely right. There's very little compliance. Like I said, I've been to 8 European countries and I've seen almost 0 ADA compliance.
Well, of course they don't have to. They're not.
Part of the reason that we tear so
what
many.
I'm saying is what we would consider to be ADA compliant.
Right. Well, you've got buildings there that are centuries old.
Yeah.
Here in this country, we are so strict with the rules that sometimes it's more cost efficient for you to just tear an old structure down and start all over, than to try to bring it into compliance to meet some arbitrary, insane rules. In terms of cost, it can. I mean, you could. There's some structures I'm sure you could get into millions of dollars on.
Something else that that we're starting to see is on websites. That's the tech perspective here. Is that websites companies are being sued because their website.
Yeah, be sure it's accessible. Ours is.
Right.
At Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
We pay extra like $35 a month to make sure it is.
Yeah, and that's where. But the thing is, though, there's anyway. It's just one of those things that it's good and there's bad, just like anything else. So,
it's what happens is the intent was good.
Yes,
there was some good intent, because the fact of the matter is, we do need to be sure that people who have physical disabilities have access to most places, especially government, anything
publicly
that they
funded.
Yeah, that they pay taxes on. I get that, and we need to be careful on that. The problem is you get a lot of lawyers involved and things like that who see dollar signs, and you have the activists who are a very small percentage.
Yep.
You see a very small percentage of activists, and they want to blow everything up and cause problems for everybody else. And so you take something that is a minor, hey, and everybody's on board. Hey, let's do this, and this because it's the right thing to do. We'll spend a little extra money, but then it's like you're putting people out of business in some cases or they're making choices that I can't grow a business here, or I can't put my business in here because it's not worth the hassle.
Well, probably a great example locally is the Wichita County Courthouse Annex. It's been going through this extensive remodel project now for months. Burt Burnett, their city hall, same thing. It's been shut down for like 6 months as they go through this extensive renovation. And anytime they do this, they have to meet all these ADA requirements, and it increases the costs pretty extensively. To make sure that all those doorways are wide enough, that you don't have approaches or thresholds that someone in a wheelchair, manual or powered, cannot get across. That your elevators are large enough and powerful enough to accommodate someone in a wheelchair.
Well, and that's also partly why, like, with the old Bethania, was it, that they tore down here?
Well, General.
Sorry.
Bethania is what is now remodeled.
Yeah, I wasn't here when it was Bethania so much. But anyway, the hospital that was torn down, people said, why are you tearing it down? You can make it a VA center. Well, guess what? It doesn't meet any of the requirements, the current requirements, and so that's why as part of the reason anyway, why they just said, to heck with it, we'll just tear it down, and they'll be focusing on the other buildings and new buildings.
Yeah. Now that we're on, I know we got other things to get to, but while we're on this, we all have pet peeves, and I don't know if I have some things I have pet peeves and some things are psychotic dislikes, but now, if you are not needing a handicap sticker or a handicap spot, do not take one. That nothing pisses me off more to have somebody throws a placard in their car, and it's somebody because somebody they know has the placard, or they somehow weaseled their way to get a placard. Perfect example. And I was on crutches. I was waiting. It's a long story, but I blew my knee out, and like a week after I blew my knee out, we found out my wife had a brain tumor. Okay, well, we had to take care of brain tumor before we could take care of Trace's knee, right? Okay. Right. So I was on crutches for a while. I was on crutches for a year, waiting to get her brain tumor squared away, get all that squared away, so that I could get a knee replacement. Destroyed my knee. Okay. So I still, and the doctor even asked me, do you want a handicap placard? I'm like, no, I can crutch my ass in. It hurts, but I'm still capable of doing it. And the last thing I want to do is take up one of those spots for somebody who, mine was I wouldn't call it a disability, mine was an inconvenience. It hurt, and it wasn't convenient, but I could do it. And I can remember at Lowe's one time, I was crutching my ass in, and I had to park, back in the back 40, so I'm crutching all the way into Lowe's, and a four-wheel drive lifted pickup comes whipping in there. Guy jumps out. He got a handicap tag on this deal. Whips in there, jumps out, and he goes into Lowe's in almost a full trot. I mean, this guy's moving and shaking, and he's driving this four-wheel drive.
He's practically skipping it.
Yeah, and he's got a four-wheel drive truck, lifted truck, 3/4-ton truck, and he parks in a handicap spot. Yeah. And I'm like, this guy does not need that handicap spot. No. So if you do not need the handicap spot, don't be an asshole. Leave that handicap spot for somebody else.
Apparently, it's so easy to get that. All you need And from what I understand, it could be for any variety. It doesn't even have to be a physical disability. It could be for any variety of reasons. All you need is a doctor to sign off on it and say, this person needs that handicap access.
Do they necessarily have to justify the reason? Because surely they wouldn't have to, whoever issues this, they wouldn't have to disclose the specifics.
Well, no. I guess DMV issues it. And, I'm guessing there's a shelf life on it. You have to renew it.
Well, then you also have the
often.
placard, though. That's where I've seen a lot of people, I think, that abuse it, is they get that temporary tag. Like, for instance, and that's what the doctor wasn't going to try to get me an issue a tag, but he said, "Hey, do you need a placard to hang in your car?"
Yes.
And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that because I have character and I don't need it." Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying if you need that placard or something like that, you don't have character. You absolutely do have character. You need it. But what I'm saying is, if you don't need it, if it's just because it's an inconvenience and you could do without it, have some character and don't take it, and don't take up that spot for that person who has COPD or is in a wheelchair or for whatever reason, literally physically can't walk as far a distance as you can.
Yeah, there's some people it would be dangerous. Like my mother was an example. When she was 71 years old, she had a handicap placard, but she was so debilitated by that point that walking across a parking lot and trying to cross against traffic to get to the front of a store would have been dangerous for her.
And we don't want that, so don't take that spot from her.
Right. But I've seen them too. They hop out of the truck, and they're practically skipping their way into the store.
Yeah, and it's like you don't need that spot. Just
clearly
because you
they're
can.
not.
It's like everything else. Just because you can doesn't mean you need to.
Yeah.
Well, this dude one time was a bodybuilder apparently in a Corvette, pulled into a handicap spot without, and I probably shouldn't have been saying anything. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I was like, dude, and he's like cussing me out and everything. But anyway,
yeah.
But oh well.
Well, the Wichita Falls Chamber, this is something that's coming up, and if you want to get involved in this is pretty important. The Wichita Falls Chamber is going to host a symposium, I guess it should be. It's like a 2-day workday thing called Defining Our Culture. It's going to be April the 10th and 11th, and you could contact the Wichita Falls Chamber if you want to be interested in this. Yep. It's going to be hosted, I believe, by maybe a sociologist or somebody from one of the Texas Tech system schools. And it's going to be a lot of community people that come in, and that's what they're wanting. The Chamber's wanting a lot of people from the community to come in and talk about what's the culture of Wichita Falls? What do we want to define our culture of Wichita Falls to be?
Yep.
So be sure to get involved in that if you can.
Yep. WichitaFallsChamber.com is their website, and the phone number is 940-723-2741 if you want to call them to learn more about it.
And then also this week, we mentioned this last week, but this week, James Frank is going to be hosting some town halls. And where are they, Mike?
He's going to be at the Grove in Burke Burnett on the 22nd at 10 a.m. at the Grove in Burke. Then same day, 22nd, 1:30 at Electra Hospital and 4 p.m. at the Archer City Community Center. So he's going to be covering 2 counties in a single day with these town hall meetings. So full day there. And then bird is loud, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And then on the 26th, 5 p.m. at the Muhlenberger Travel Center on North Scott, which is very close to where you are.
It's a nice bus stop, yeah.
Really, really nice bus stop. Yeah. Named in honor of Clarence Muhlenberger.
That's right.
A community business person and one of the early business leaders in our city.
Right, he was a philanthropist as well. But we had Muhlenberger's was a big clothing store downtown.
Yeah, Muhlenberger's. Well, the very first suit I ever owned in my life, I was a child, and we were going to a family member's wedding, and my grandmother took me to Muhlenberger's downtown to get a suit.
Yes.
And they actually measured me. They fitted me for the suit. They altered it. I mean, I have no idea what my grandmother spent on this suit.
Yeah.
Maybe $100, but back in those days, that was a lot of money. $100 for a suit.
Yeah.
For a little kid. Something I was going to be able to wear maybe twice in my entire life.
I was in a family member's wedding when I was about 5 or 6, and my mother made my suit.
Really?
My mother was an unbelievable. Still is. I mean, she doesn't sew as much. She still is an unbelievable seamstress.
Really?
Yeah. She like I said, she doesn't sew as much as she used to, obviously, because she's older. unbelievable. Yeah, she made like the shirt, the pants, the jacket, the whole nine. There's a picture of me hanging in my parents' house in their hallway with me in my suit, and my mother made that suit.
Plaid?
No, it was brown.
No bottoms?
It was brown. I think I had to wear a pink shirt, which as a red-blooded six-year-old boy is like, gotta wear pink or whatever. So it was like the first time I went to Pat's Hamburgers, and if you ever went to Pat's, now Pat's is still, they're next door to
The Travel Center.
The Travel Center.
Yeah.
And they're one of the best burgers in town. Ronnie's
Yeah.
Burgers are some great local burger places here in
Really
town.
are.
Pat's
Yeah.
is great. But years ago, they were over in Northside, basically where the Impact, they were part of that, where that Impact sits now. And they used to do what's called short order cook. So if you're younger than about 40 or 50, you probably never heard of a short order cook. And what happens is the person at the counter takes your order. They holler back in code something about to the back, and the cook knows what to cook. And the first time I remember going in there, and I didn't like mustard when I was a kid, so I said, I want a cheeseburger with mayonnaise, and she turned around and she said, "One sissy burger."
Remember that?
And here I am, like 6 or 7, swelled up like a bullfrog, but not dare say a word because you do not talk back to adults.
Do you remember the Saturday Night Live skit, the repeated one, the hamburger place?
Yeah.
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
What do you want? I want a hamburger. Cheeseburger.
Yeah.
You know, that's all they did was cheeseburgers.
This is what John Belushi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! And by the way, that suit that my grandmother bought me for that wedding, when I had it on, I looked like a very short, very young attorney in an ancient law firm somewhere. It was gray. It was a gray suit with a vest. So it's a 3-piece suit with a darker gray shirt, as I recall, and a black tie.
That's fine.
And I seriously looked like I looked like some sort of attorney that just walked out of a law firm. Like I should be in an episode of Matlock or something.
You should have given you a little briefcase to go with it.
I
Halliburton
really
or
should
something.
have. You know, every time I watch, there's this kid show. It's called Boss. It's a movie called Boss Baby. Every time I see that movie, I think about me in that damn suit when I was like 8 years old, and 7 years old, whatever I was. Crazy. Anyway, where are we going now with this?
There's something that's semi-local. This is somewhat interesting. It just hit the news recently that there's a Forestburg couple. Now, Forestburg's in Montague County. It's not Montague County. It's for all you new weather people.
Montague County.
It's Montague County. Forestburg is down out by St. Joe in that area, which is about St. Joe's 60 miles east, almost exactly 60 miles east of here on Highway 82.
Yeah.
And Forestburg is probably 10 miles from St. Joe or something like that, kind of more south. So, but yeah, there's been a Forestburg couple that have actually been convicted of their participation in the January 6th thing. You shake your head, though. This, and while I don't like all the January 6th BS, if the report is right, they deserve some sort of punishment. So the body cam footage shows them pushing the barricades, and apparently the Capitol Police told them to get back, and they're screaming "F you" to the Capitol Police. Okay, and then the guy, Mark, whatever they're Milton or whatever, grabbing the Capitol Police officer by the wrist and trying to pull him into the crowd. You can't do that.
No, you can't do that. And I agree. I agree. There should be some punishment. But this is what I find so disingenuous about all of this. We had in 2020, 2021, we had cities that were burned.
Totally agree.
Public property, police cars, and more burned and destroyed.
Yep.
We have video of people jumping up and down on the hoods of police cars, smashing in windshields. We have police officers injured and hurt. We have people killed during some of these riots. Private businesses burned to the ground. Entire livelihoods destroyed by people.
Yep.
All because they were mad. And yet we don't prosecute or punish any of them. They get away scot-free with everything that they were doing. No, you can't do that. You can't look at this riot on January 6th in D.C. and go, oh, all of those people are guilty as hell, and they all deserve to rot in a federal prison for time eternal. But then look at this other group over here and go, well, they were just expressing themselves, or well, they were just
the biggest problem you have with that.
God.
But the biggest problem you have with that, Mike, is you're talking about something the January 6th happened on federal property.
I don't care where it happened.
I understand, but hang on. But there's a law. We have laws. I'm not saying whether you agree with it or not. We do have laws, and I'm not defending. First off, I don't defend all the BS from January 6th. Yeah. But I'm simply saying that happened on federal property, where a lot of this other stuff happened on local property, state and local property, and those people. The problem was the local DAs, the local police, and that sort of stuff did not do what they were supposed to do. The jurisdiction, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. I totally agree with you. Yeah. It's complete bullshit that these people. By the way, it's not bullshit that these people are being punished. It's bullshit that these people are being punished and those other people were not.
Well, and it's the people who are demanding that January 6th participants are to be prosecuted, and yet those same people have say nothing.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I don't like the situation.
Yeah.
If I go to someone's business and I smash out a window and throw a Molotov cocktail inside and burn their business to the ground, I have committed basically burglary, arson. If I've put lives in jeopardy, I could be charged with attempted murder or attempted manslaughter, or if someone dies, I could be charged with murder or manslaughter. I'm going to be prosecuted and should be prosecuted.
If that was an isolated incident having nothing to do with any of these other social issues that they're supposedly...
But it doesn't... to me...
It doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant.
I agree, but I'm saying that you and I, we all agree, I think we would say if it was an isolated incident that had nothing to do with any of the like I said, the social issues that they say they're going after, that person more than likely would have been prosecuted in any jurisdiction, but because somehow politically,
there was a shooting in Kansas City, just very recently.
Last night
at the end of the parade.
At
the end of the parade, celebrating the Chiefs' win in the Super Bowl, and people were killed. People were wounded. Children were wounded.
22 people apparently were shot.
Yeah, you know what? You arrest that when you catch that shooter. You arrest them. Charge them, you throw the book at them. You don't go soft on them because you're afraid you're going to offend somebody or hurt somebody. No, they committed a crime. They killed people. They murdered people.
Yeah,
you prosecute them.
Well, there's the height of hypocrisy on this one as well. Once again, I understand from a legal standpoint why it is what it is. I just don't agree with it. These people apparently were seen on footage, grabbing and pulling a police officer.
Right. There's actual body cam footage.
There's body cam footage. Okay.
Police.
So you put your hands on a cop, and you tried. Apparently, it looked like you tried to pull. You didn't put your hands on the cop, shake the guy's hand. Let's just be fair. They were trying to cause disruption. Okay.
Right.
But then a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, you had 6 illegal aliens attack 2 New York City police officers.
Yep.
And actually physically attack them. It wasn't a try to drag them, put them on the ground, kicking at them. And let me tell you, there's a couple of those people, they were going for headshot kicks. And if you don't understand combat, a person, there's a reason why in most combat sports and like MMA, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, all that sort of stuff, you cannot kick a down opponent, especially in the head, because it is one of the most vulnerable things you can do, and you could absolutely kill somebody.
That's right.
That's a kill shot. You got somebody down on their knees like this, and you put a foot and you go full bore and you kick them in their head, it's so easy to break their neck. It's an absolute, or knock them out cold and then they hit the ground. It's a kill shot.
Yeah.
So,
broken your foot.
I don't disagree with these people being prosecuted. What I disagree with is the fact that the other people were not prosecuted to the same extent.
Totally agree. We're going to have to wrap this particular podcast up for now.
You're good. We got some more we can talk about next time.
We got more we can cover next time, guys. We appreciate you being with us here on Get It Right Texoma with the Texoma Trio right here. Mike Hendren, Terry McAdams, Trace Sralla. We look forward to having you back with us next time. Get us on YouTube, Facebook, audio podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and more. And be sure and like and share and give us your feedback. We want to hear from you. Hear your thoughts on the program, maybe even your suggestions, whatever they may be. We want to hear from you. Until next time, take care. We'll see you down the road, guys.